So, so we're doing Rivka. My son, who's going to be watching this tomorrow in Yerushalayim, gets very upset when I say that the shir's in two parts. I've just got so much to say about Rivka, and I'm also writing a new book about Noshim Tzidkonias. So I'm afraid this is going to be in two parts. I don't know when we'll go through Rachel on there, but get the idea. So at the end of Parshas Vayero, then we have the story of the Kedah, as we know, and then straight after that, then the Psukim said the following thing. But he achrid dvorim hayin is after Kedah Yitzchak. But Yogad Lavram is told to Avram Lemar to say Hine Yolda Milka Gam Hi Bonim Lanochar Achich. So your brother, your sister-in-law, she's had quite a few children as well. As Utz Bechora. He's got a first son called Utz. I would not like to be called Utz, but never mind. If you're Scottish, anybody watching this is Scottish will get the joke. Anyway, wouldn't want to be called Utz. Bechora, but as Booz. You don't have to be Scottish to get the joke. I wouldn't want to be called Booz either. Anyway, Ochim, his brother, but as Kemuel Avi Aram, but as Kesed, but as Chazoi, but as Pildosh, but as Yidlof, but as Besuel. Oh, Besuel, Yodad as Rivka. Yula and Basil had a girl, a daughter called Rivka. Shmana Ela Yoda Milka Lanachar Achichal Avram. And so that's the 8 children that Milka gave birth to through Nochar. Upalagshoi, and he had a Pelagish as well. The Shema was Ru'uma. The Teled Gam he is Teva, is not Gacham, is Tachash, is Ma'acha. So there you go. Now Rashi says something which is interesting here. He says, I was just looking at it before. Maybe tell me what's wrong with this Rashi, or what's troubling with Rashi. Kol haYechusin halolo lo nechtavo ela b'shvil pasuk zeh. This whole big shtick I just read to you was only in order to get to pasuk Kov Beis, where it's Kov Gim, where it says Vasil Yolad Rivka, to tell you that Rivka was born. So that's the Rashi. Any problem, gentlemen?
Why does it keep going on?
Yeah, so you just say that. Well, why not just say that then? So I noticed in...
Which part should it stop? You want to get to the Yichus of Moshe and Aaron. So it goes to Ruvain, Shimon, and Levi. And after it says that Amram had Aaron and Moshe, it stops.
Why do you stop here?
It didn't stop here. Yeah, it didn't stop
Keep
here.
going.
But I'm saying, if he's saying that everything else is irrelevant, why just go to the relevant bit? Anyways, here's a very interesting Orach Chaim. This is not really for... I wasn't really preparing this year, but it really caught my eye. Maybe you already know this Orach Chaim. I kind of suspect it's famous, just being an Amor, as I haven't actually noticed it. No, we can't say that again. Let's try that again. The tam shehutzrech hakosav lichtav kol seder hanolim minochar gam mipulagshay ruuma lolodover. The reason that it says all these people, including the Pelagish ruuma, which seems to have no purpose whatsoever, you should know. Ki kimishenoitzitz nefesh sadik is an interesting word. I'm not sure how to translate it. Kishenoitzitz either says sparks, that's right, or blooms. I think it probably means blooms or shines. Noitzitz can often mean shine. How would you translate that? Shines. Okay. So it starts to shine. Nefesh sadik, mafelis wa olam hazeh, to shine is to come into this world. Or tzedekah Rivka, or tzedekah like Rivka, in kol zera hakadusha, with all zera hakadusha. That's interesting. All zera hakadusha. There's an interesting, the interesting idea that every single. Have you seen these Russian dolls? Another one. You know that a woman is born with every single egg that she will ever have going through her body and potentially being alive already in place. Do you know that every baby is born with every potential baby she will have? I've always imagined it like, it's Chava, and then, every potential, because if every potential baby is, in a sense, has got every potential baby in it through all the generations. So I'm not terribly sure exactly what the Orach Chaim means by that, but he says, Kol Zera HaKadusha. Let's see. L'tzad masha kodem mis arvois mebechinas hara misovim chet odem arishon. Since there's an earbud, there's a mixing up of bechinas hara misibas hara chet odem arishon, since the world is now a mixture of good and evil from the time of Odom Arishon, asher dovak boy rabba type. That means every single human being has both negative and positive in it. And now we're going to have a soul that comes to the world, which is a special soul, a unique soul, the soul of a tzaddik or a tzaddikas. And he says, Ba'avoinus yimso beshekunoso nefoshes gedolos mechelek haklipa. Zul umazu bora lukim, for every positive there's an equal and opposite negative. And when the neshama of a great tzaddik or tzedekah comes to the world, there are negative, great negative forces that come to the world as well, to accompany them. Interesting concept, huh? Freedom. The kol echod hikir bechinosai, and each one recognizes their bechina, their tachlis perhaps. Rivka hair oira bekedusha v'zelosa kamoitz yisor. Rivka recognizes her role, but the rest is almost like, it's like the wheat and the chaff and all that sort of stuff. But there are negative things, there are other things, not necessarily negative, but ultimately so. From that, there is told. That's why we got all this list. They're all relevant. They all play a part in her life. I said this all the time to my talmidim and talmidas, both in yeshivas and seminaries. It applies to you as well and me. It's never a coincidence that we meet other people in our lives. Quickly as I'm saying this year, remind us what it says in Pirkei Avos, that more than ever I learned from my rabbis, I learned from my talmidim. So when you're giving a shiur, you're going to get turned by people asking you questions, and just in preparing the shiur, you make sure you know your stuff, unless you're not too busy. But certainly the people that you meet in your life, and particularly in the field of Torah, the people you're mechanchim or you're mechanach, it's never an accident. So whenever you come to people, it's never an accident. According to the Orach Chaim, that means the negative people, the negative forces that you meet in your life as well, they're there for a purpose. Think of your mother-in-law. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. But you get the idea. And of course, so when I was thinking about that before, I'm going to say this. I like my mother. I like both my mothers.
You know mine now.
What?
You know mine.
Okay. Anyway, so the Kitzur, and then I was thinking, so when I saw that, the Orach Chaim, the first time I saw the Orach Chaim, very important Orach Chaim, I think, I was thinking of the Gemara in Avodah Zarah Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. So this is the famous story about, the Olam challenge Hashem Yisbarach. How do we know that the Klal Yisrael kept the Torah? Hashem says, I'll give Edus. Yeah, but you're biased. Boni Matem Hashem Melekechem. You actually what it says in your Torah, so your father. Can a father give Edus with his son? Okay, I'll bring Shemai Ba'aretz. I forgot to switch that off. No. Thank you so much. It's very nice when you see an electrician doing electrical stuff and not costing you money. That's it takes a strange sure. Is there something? Excellent. Okay, fine. Etc. Then, but here, after he says Shemai Ma'oris, again, the Ummah Olam or their theologians or their professors of Bible studies turn around and say that's not fair because the Pasuk says in law, sorry, if the law, mine's gone blank, I've got to do this. I would, if it wasn't the fact that Torah is being learned at some point, they say that's why the earth is round. There's always Torah being learned somewhere, and if not been for that fact, then of course the Shema Ba'oretz are going to say that it worked. Otherwise, they had no raison d'etre, and therefore Hashem seems to, as it were, back off from that and say, okay, fair enough. So therefore, at that point, the Gemara famously says, okay, Mechem Yavil Ve'eda. In that case, I'll bring. Don't worry about this. It'll go off eventually.
Remind me to put it back on.
Yeah, I forgot last week. Whenever we did it last time, woke up and went. Okay, so he says, okay, from you I'll bring Edus. If you're not going to accept the Edim I want, I'll bring it from Edim from you, from amongst you. Yova Nimrod. Nimrod comes. V'yed ba'Abram shelo oved avodah zarah. So along comes Nimrod and says, no, Abraham Avinu was never given to avodah zarah. Yova Lavan. Lavan comes along, v'yed b'Yaakov, and he says, v'Yaakov shelo nechshud al hagezel. Yeah, I cheated him 5 gazillion times. But he never resorted to the same tricks or justified doing it because he's cheated me, I'm getting the money back, etc., etc., etc. Eishes Potiphar. Thank you. Eishes Potiphar, stop shouting. Eishes Potiphar comes and says, no, that I tried to get Yosef into trouble, he was never interested. And that's v'chulu. And I think I saw this. It was either Reb Simcha Zissel or Rabbi Rucham, because it's such a good idea, it can't possibly be mine. But he says that ultimately the people who are going to get you in upstairs in Shemaim are going to be the people who give you the hardest time down here. It's like the Rashi says when Yaakov sends the messengers to Esav, Im Lov and Garti, Rashi says, Im Tariag Mitzvah Shamati, Garti, etc. And Rabbi Rucham certainly says there that it was more than that. It's because I lived with Lovin that I was able to keep the Tariag Mitzvahs. If the Tariag Mitzvah is just, easy to do, it's just, a nice lifestyle. But the real test of anybody is when it becomes hard to do. When I was teaching in Samari today to the girls, and I was doing what we do in Shabbos, those come to the shir in the shul, we're doing Shar B'tochen and the reason that Peter Gimel why bad things happen to good people. The last one of why good things happen to bad people, he says that sometimes to show you that who you think to be a tzaddik is not actually a tzaddik. And when they go through tough times, think of the Chanukah story. Very often sometimes people give up. Oh, that was nice being for him, but this is the new show in town, as they say. This is the new thing to do, and it's easy, and it's nicer, and it's fashionable, and they go off and follow that. You can't really see that until you are who's the real tzaddik, who's really dovik to Torah and mitzvahs, until it's difficult to keep Torah and mitzvahs. And at that point, then the real tzaddik is obvious. If you ever go, I don't know if you've ever been there, sometimes worrying, when you're taking off in a jet and they bring those spritzers because they de-ice the wings. Have you ever been in a plane where they do that? Mm-hmm. Chicago's a good place for that type of it. But I've certainly seen people on planes, I don't think they do this while you're sitting there, but they've got a big sort of like funny looking camera and they're going along the wings and they're looking for microscopic cracks in the wings. I think it's called hairline fracture. No, it's actually to do with both. It's got a name, I can't remember what it is, but it's a little tiny fracture, you can't see it. Now the plane will take off and go to New York and come back, it's fine. And you'll not see it with the human eye. But if you don't see that, it's when it goes through the tough turbulence, that's when that crack will become a big crack, and then the wing falls off. You want to make sure before you check that out. But it's only you can see if it's only when it goes through that's when the crack becomes apparent, not to the human eye. Sometimes Hashem Yisborach will give a tzaddik a hard time in order to show people he is a tzaddik. When he's not, because very often, and we can think of many examples of tzaddikim, think of Acher for a start, huge Talmidei Chachamim, or even Nevi'im, who were legitimate Nevi'im, but then went off. So going through tough times is, so here I'll bring from you, amongst you, the people who gave us the hardest time. So ultimately when we get upstairs, the person who's going to get you in is maybe, the person who really made your life a misery downstairs. If you can say him loving God, yeah, I never did what he did. I was a mensch. I never went down to his level. So it's an interesting idea in its own way. Fine. Okay. So there's actually another reason, of course, and that's the famous Gemara in Kedushin and Iron Base. Did I not bring it down? Oh.
What's the Satan?
Oh yes, thank you. Go on, Satan, what were you saying? I wasn't thinking of the song, no. Iron Base, where is it? Iron Base, on the base. Oh, good.
So Satan is going to be your greatest advocate then?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, look, if he has to stand up and say, I suppose Nimrod was just a Kali of the Satan. But here the Gemara says famously in Ein Beis on base in Kedushin, it says the following thing. We can find this. It says, Hayom Yeshe Bechekov Shel Avram. Hayom Noled Rav Yehuda B'Bobel B'Omer Mar. Domar. Kishemis Rabbi Akiva Noled Rebbe. Kishemis Rabbi Noled Rabbi Yehuda. Kishemis Rabbi Yehuda Noled Rova. Kishemis Rova Noled Rav Ashi. Lamdecha she'in tzaddik nifter min ha'olam. There's no tzaddik who disappears from the world. And shenivra tzaddik moisei. Unless there's a tzaddik, there's a replacement who can take his stand in his shoes. Shem, as the pasuk says, it's Kehelas Aleph Hey. Zorach Hashemesh Ubo Hashemesh. What's that sunset? At this point I burst into song, I suppose. Sunrise, sunset, right? One sun goes down, another sun comes up, etc. Chazal say that's talking about tzaddikim. Oh. So if we look in Bereshis again, and we look in where I've marked 2. I've got a new technique. I'm just putting bases there. I'm sure this is going to work, but anyway, let's see. So in Kof Dalad, Samach Zayin, yes. But Yavia Yitzchak Ahela Sarah. So this is the story of Rivka arriving, and Yitzchak takes her into his mother's tent. Imoy Yikach es Rivka Vatila Isha, and she comes into the tent and she was a wife. And he loved her, and he was comforted for the after the death of his mother. And Rashi famously says there, a boy is particularly close to his mother, and when she dies, he's broken-hearted. But that broken heart will only be repaired when he finds a wife. That's what it says. But says Rashi before that, "V'yavia ahala v'nasas dugma sora imay." He brought her into the tent, and there was a parallel, there was a copy or a repeat of Sora Imai. Atrophy, some people say, which is a Gilgal, we'll see that in a second, of Sora Imai. Kalama Vaharihi Sora Imai. Let's say Vaharihi Sora Imai. She calls Zman Sora Kayemes Hoyaner Doilak Me'erev Shabbos Le'erev Shabbos. As everybody knows, when Sora was alive, which lit the candles, it lasted the whole week. Oh, Bracha Mitsuba Isa. And the dough that she was separating, which made the chal, and she separated the chal, and she made the chal, it swelled up and lasted the whole week. But on and kosher oil, and it was an oil that stayed over the oil. Umishimei is posku. And when she died, it stopped because she was Rivka Chosra. And the Medrash says that when Rivka comes back, then it comes back too. What's that all about? So the Alshik says something very interesting with this. So he says on this, Royal Osmle, we should consider ma inyan arba devorim halola shenisyachta l'Sara Rivka. What more are these things, these phenomena, which happened to Sarah and Rivka? What's it all about? Okay, why did the candle burn? Why did they? So he's going to go into this in a little bit of depth. Achini kosem b'makaymas. I've already explained. That the mistakes that Adam and Chava made, that Avram and Sarah's job here was to put that right. And they did, as long as they lived. But they didn't complete the process. When is the process completed? 26 generations later. When we stand at Har Sinai, and we get the Torah, then the Klal Yisrael goes back to the Madriga of Adam Rishon. Had Klal Yisrael not made the Egel Azov, that's it. The job, the repair is done, and the world would have been fixed. But in the same way as the Satan, who we were mentioning so warmly before, intervened and destroyed Adam Rishon, he does it again, and we've mentioned this recently. So therefore, when the Mashiach comes, we go back to the Madriga, bite fingernails. Is this going to repeat itself a third time? So I told you, Rabbi Desta says that no. Then the 49th level, which is what Adam Rishon was on, which Klal Yisrael reaches at Kabbalah Satara, we will be there again, but there will be an iron cast floor underneath. We won't be able to go down. We will still have Bechira, the Kataklas of the world is Bechira, but now it's your choice to go to the 50th. You can't go down anymore, but that's by the by. And after that, Yitzchak Rivka. And the Zohar says in Pashas Vayechi, Ki ha'ovos kulon yesh lahem shachas al pi gilgol imoik before Shom. The Adam and Chava, the Imos and the Ovos were Gilgulim of Adam and Chava. So Adam and Chava comes back because that's one of the purposes of Gilgul, to either achieve what you failed to achieve or to put right what you did wrong in a previous life. Okay. That's why, of course, they're all buried in the same place. Sorry?
Not Rachel?
Not Rachel. And of course you got to ask the question, Rachel and Leah and Bilhah and Zilpah, it gets a little bit complicated. But a Gilgul doesn't mean to say that you have to take on the entire chelik of the neshama. Anyway, so basically, why are women given three mitzvahs? Nida, Chala, and Lokas and Air. Right? And that, of course, rings a bell from the Mishnah we say on Friday night. Women are pass away, etc. But who can resolve? So he says it's the Medrash Rabbah. He keeps Nero Sholaylam. The reason that she got this mitzvah is because she ignored. What's the word?
Extinguished.
Thank you. Not extinguished. She did not ignore. She extinguished. Well done. The light of the world. Tadlik gets in there, so therefore she'd have to rekindle the light. Okay. He shofcha dama Sholaylam. She spilled blood in the world. That's in other words, she brought death to the world. Tishbach dama b'tzkayim mitzvahs need. So therefore, she would be able to put, as it were, that right by being given the mitzvah of nida, which is connecting to blood. Okay. He called and she spoiled the challah of the world. Scratch head. Good. Yeah, yeah. Sorry? Yeah. Not bad. He's going to say something different, but I like you. I will like what you said. Okay. Achalasa tifresh challah, and then she's got to be separate in challah. Okay. Key. Heina odam murkav me arba devorim. Now we all know that we're made up of 4 components: neshama, ruach, nefesh, v'chaymer. Okay. Chava kilkala hashlosha, and what Chava did wrong spoiled 3 of the 4. Which one did she not spoil? The neshama. Elokai and neshama shenasati bita horehi. So that didn't affect the neshama. But the other 4 elements of what a human being is, the physical and the other 2 spiritual, the ruach and the nefesh, then she's certainly damaged. Okay. Ki he does chochma emes, because the chochma emes, the Zohar says, ki haneshama elyana eina nefgemes ba'oven. The neshama is not neshama elyana is not affected. But get into a whole, 10-hour share and exactly how this all works and what neshamas are. But let's not go too deep, or we will not dig ourselves out. Ki terem yechta asher hi b'sistalek me'lov, because before your neshama is so pure, when you go to do something wrong, it just runs away. Goes back upstairs to heaven, and therefore it's not affected. But the other 3 are affected. So therefore, what are the other 3? So listen, now we come to his answer for what he said. The physical body of Adam Rishon, that was separated from the earth, the same way as the challah is separated from the dough. And therefore what happens is that what you do by challah, you make one kodesh and one's chol. That was chol, and it was kodesh, and she made it chol. So therefore, she's given that specific mitzvah. Wait. Okay, fine. At the moment, this is all sounding almost kindergarten. Right? Okay, fine. But who come out? Because Chachmein Zon goes into this. I can miss this bit a little bit. My offer, sure, but mine. Ki offer shememeno nivra odem nisachas the parshas challah. Because Chazal gives some sort of dimion between challah, to the separation of that symbolizes the physical body, which is going to be affected by Chava. So she spoiled that, everything that's going to come from that initial separation from the world. Then she spoiled it, and of course it would have to go back into the earth where it came from to eventually come out in time of Mashiach, purged of its sin. Because the Challah is Kodesh, and the Shara Isa is Chol. Right. But she'in hano mikol haaretz ad yivra odom kasher eineni me'isa ad hefesh chalaf. Okay. Mimokam kaporasa nivra. He's going to go into the whole thing, which I'm going to mess up. Hine. Chav hasiba akiras hachleima misasav hafsedai. So she brought death and brought physicality into the world. Okay. He's talking b'mitzvahs challah. It's be repaired through mitzvahs challah. Rega. Well, nefesh, that's the physical. Right. So she spoiled the physical, or she created the physical, really. And now, what about the nefesh? Shakil kala isa. Well, the nefesh is the. A nefesh who? How was supposed to say? Adam. Okay, fine. Well, nefesh shakil kala isa. Talking about Mrs. Nida. Ki Adam here nefesh. The keneged ruach hameira yoser, and the light and the ruach which lights most yoser have a kipsa ur to talking bener Shabbos, and that's symbolized by the light of Shabbos. Lovely. So when Sarah was alive, these things occurred. The miracles occurred through these 3 things, which is symbolic of what? Of the fact that while Sarah was alive, her mission in life, she was Chava. She's putting right what happened before. It's just a symbol, right? It's just like the sign in front of the store saying "shop open." Right? These things happened was a sign that she was putting right the things that she had done wrong. Now, what happens when Rivka walks into the house? Then the light went, the open sign was switched off, and then it comes back. So Rivka is a continuation. That's why it says that she is Sora as well. She's a Gilgal. She's also Chava as well, and they're putting right the damage that was occurred from the first time she was here. Fine. So it says the Alshach. In Toldus, in the Seder of Toldus, it says at the beginning, Ve'el Toldus Yitzchak ben Avram Holed is Yitzchak. Vayhi Yitzchak ben Avram Shana Bekachta is Rivka bas B'Soil Ba'arami Mipadan Aram Achas Lovan Arami Loy Leisha. V'yeter Yitzchak LaHashem L'nochach Ishtai. So he pleads to Hashem opposite, as remember Rashi says, one stands one side of the room, the other stands the other side of the room. The other loy. Not can I say that. Where is it? Outside. In the Nocha Ishtay. Ki akar because she couldn't have any children. But he also allowed Hashem b'tahar Rivka Ishtay, and Hashem allowed himself to be entreated for him, and she becomes pregnant. Well, so here's the famous Rashi at the beginning. The Elotal Sitzlok ben Avram Holiday Sitzlok. We mentioned this just recently. It's a bit of a duh moment. Why does the Torah have to say that? If it's Ben Avram, then of course. So you remember what the Rashi says there. Avram Halei Sitzkok. It says because the skeptics, the cynics, the nasty people of the generation, you're kidding. You're not really trying to tell me that this woman got pregnant from Avram. How many decades was she married and no pregnancy? She didn't get pregnant at all. And I've lost count of the number of years, 90 years, I think it pregnant. Do me a favor. Ma also Kadosh Baruch Hu. But one night, kidnapped with Avimelech, she gets pregnant. Who's the father? Okay. So what did Hashem Yisborach do? A tsar cluster upon of Shal Yitzchak Daimel Avram. He made Avram's face, Yitzchak's face, identical to Avram's. But he didn't call Avram Holid Yitzchak, so that everybody would know that Avram Holid is Yitzchak. The Shekazo Kan Yitzchak ben Avram, Shari Edis Yeshu Avram Holid is Yitzchak. How old is Yitzchak when his wife gets pregnant? 60. 60, yes, 60. So the Alshach asks him this something very interesting. And he says, if that's the case, why didn't he do it when he was born? Why, when Yitzchak was born, did he not change his face to be identical to Avram's? Well, not as a baby, but I mean, when he grew up.
Why is it say here?
Sorry?
Why is it said here?
Why is it when he's 60? What happened that is essential now, at this stage in life, to change Yitzhal's face to Avram's? So the Alshach says, when people made that accusation before, when he was born, and Avram and Sarah were alive, nobody paid too much attention to them. And you remember the woman brought their babies and as a proof that it wasn't just some baby she'd smuggled, I had a baby. No, she actually nursed other people's babies, so obviously she'd, being able to feed a baby comes with pregnancy. That's the only thing that happens. Fine. So it didn't really take off. But now something's happened, or something's about to happen, which is going to change everything. She's going to have a son, actually 2 sons. Now the fact she's got a son called Yaakov, that fits nicely. But she had an Esau. So Yitzchak had a Ishmael, but that's Ishmael. And he had Ishmael from a different in a different direction. But here's the same woman, and Rivka is producing a child, and this child that she produces is an Esau. Where did that come from? How could that possibly be? So you turn around and say, okay, so obviously it could easily be from Rivka, because look at the background she comes from. What's that yichus is that? It would obviously come from her. But you might be skeptical, says the Alshach, and say, no, you can say the exact same thing about Avram Avinu, because who was his father? It's not exactly the yichus of Klal Yisrael so long-standing, right? He's something called Terach, right? Oh, and didn't he have a son called? Oh, he had a son. What was that? There was a guy called. Yeah, he had a son called Yitzhak. But there was another son from Hagar, Yishmael, right? So maybe there is that the problem comes from him. So the Alshach says that's
both come from Terah.
Sorry, I come from Terah, right? So therefore, the answer is, he says, that when it says Avram Hoyled Yitzchak, it's telling you that Yitzchak ben Avram, he was ben Avram and no further back. But then you'll say, well, then obviously it must be coming from Rivka. That's why he says that he stands in the corner and she stands in the other corner, and Hashem listens to him, and what's he davening? He's davening for Nochach Ishtoi, B'yetza Yitzchak Hashem El Nochach Ishtoi. Opposite, what's this towards? pay attention to the fact that she is my wife. She's my wife. She's my zivug. Not I married her. That she's the other half. She's the perfect match for me. Okay. And this is what I saw in Avi's father's sefer, which I thought was very. I mean, ideas really get you very excited about this, and we'll go into this more depth next week when we come back to this. So Rashi already told us that this shows the greatness of Rivka because she had a father who was a Rosher and a brother was a Rotter, and she came from a place of Rotters and she wasn't affected. And this is what Avi's father Shrita says in this. But Rashi can muvur between ma neno yitzchok b'tfilosai of Rivka. So why was he answered and not Rivka? Mishum the indom tefillah tzadik ben tzadik with tefillah tzadik ben Rosh. We'll go into more depth next week. Because everybody knows Rashi says that you can't compare the tefillahs of tzadik ben tzadik the tefillah tzadik ben Rosh. But yesh ledaktik. We've got to be careful here. I mean, we've got to look carefully. The mashma ki rak mishum tam zen is kabbalah tefillah shel yitzchak. Is that what Rashi says? Rashi means it. It's because of the fact that his father was a tzaddik that his tefillahs were makabel first. But without that, Haina Omrim ki heim shovim lebedargas at tefillah shneim shovim. Now, apart from that, being the exact same madriga, they were in the exact same madriga. She is a Gilgal as well. She is a repeat of Sarah. She's an incredible. If she walks in there, the world is being repaired in the same way as it was through Sarah, through a continuation of Rivka. And if it's not for this, we'll explain next week exactly what this means, why Tzadik and Tzadik is greater. I can't resist telling you one of my great teachers, something called Rivka.
Say that goes by Gilgal, Tzadik and Tzadik?
There's a lot to say about Gilgal, Tzadik and Tzadik. Yeah, you could say that.
Sarah.
Yeah. One of my great teachers was somebody called Roberta Halpin, who had certainly the most interesting mind, one of the most brilliant minds I've ever come across, maybe the most brilliant. He was very, very curious. I told you about him and my brother-in-law, who was a Talmud of his, and the picture fellow of the Gemara when he opened it. That's the sort of mind he had. A remarkable person. Anyway, what am I telling you that? How did I go off at that angle? Mine's gone completely blank. Oh, so he said, how can it be that a tzaddik ben tzaddik, which is what Avi's father is going to go on to say in a second, is great. Well, let me finish this because it's so good anyway. So I want to give you a little bit of an explanation. Now, what we're talking about here is, at this stage in his life, this is Yitzchak after he has withstood the Nesoina vacated. And he's not a kid. He's 60. And he's already created Tfilas Mincha. But with Darga Shel Echme Obas, he's already in the Drega that he's counted as one of the Obas. The Ki Rivka Hoyasa Daimalo B'Shavas Mamash. And our diak in Rashi is that she's in the same Madriga as him, having gone through all of that. The Chazina Shavrak Mishum Dehoya Tzadik Ben Tzadik, because obviously Rashi saying it's only because it's just a Tzadik Ben Tzadik that his prayers are answered first. Otherwise, his prayers are good enough to produce the miracle, and she could have done the same Madriga. Nana Yitzchak V'lo Rivka. Harei Chazina says, we see from this. Ki Nisyonaseho Shabo Memishpachas Rosha Mekar Rosha. The fact that she came from a father who was a Rosha and a brother who was a Rosha and a place of Rishayim is considered, and she wasn't affected by it, or she didn't allow herself to be affected by it. And as we saw in the Orachaim, and she was surrounded by Klippas, various other great negative people, great negative forces in her life, and she didn't allow them to affect her. Then Shabbos the Nisyana Shal Yitzchak v'Dargosa b'Torah mitzvahs. That's considered really as being the equivalent. And Yosef said he's shvach v'chasorin ke'echem b'vor, but the Varim Rechokim ibn Asenu. And as Avi's father says, this is the Varim Rechokim ibn Asenu. Certainly is. And a more mundane level, my great one of my great teachers, Rabaltas, turned around and said, what it means is, when it says that the place about Tshuva stands, a tzaddik ben tzaddik can't stand, which seems to be a contradiction to what the Rashi says here, he says it's a very interesting idea. He said, and remember, when we use the word Baal Tshuva in the Gemara, it's very different to, in a few weeks' time, when I'll be giving Shia Nor Sameach and Isha Torah. Because the word Tshuva means to return. But the guys there have never been, they're not coming back, they've never been there in the first place. This is a Shalom Aleichem. So he says that a real Baal Tshuva is something like Reish Lakish. So Reish Lakish was the great rabbi, beforehand, went off, apparently found mugging people to be very schmack, probably troublesome to meet him, I can understand that actually. This week I could have easily have smacked one of the boys. Anyway, so basically, and then he comes back. Well, that's a whole different story in its own right, which we might do as a year. Sof goes Sof, he said, my Rabalta, if when he comes back and he makes his yeshiva, the takonos and the gezeras he makes against Geneva and Gazela in his yeshiva will be very, very machmir. As opposed to, let's say, me or you, if you and I were to open a yeshiva, I would be very relaxed about takonos about that, because I've never had a yitzhak or for stealing. It would give me no geschmack whatsoever. But people who have that, then they know exactly how apparently enjoyable that is. So in the Nakuda that they went off and the Nakuda that they come back, the Baal Teshuva is greater than the Tzaddik Ben Tzaddik was never going off, because he's never had that. He's never had to overcome that. That's what he said. So that's how it could fit together. Don't tell me I've left it upstairs. I couldn't possibly have left it upstairs. Running out of time. Oh, well, that doesn't say it off by heart. So Rabbi Dessler, which somehow or other I left upstairs, in Michta Mediyahu on page 153 in Kedekam, he has an essay there called Hashbaz Sviva. And he starts off by saying something which is astonishing. Well, the first bit's not astonishing. He starts off by saying, people tend to think that Hashbaz Sviva is something that affects only children and the feeble-minded. But when you're grown up, you know how to get over the dealing with Hashbaz Sviva. He says, but that's clearly not true. And he says an astonishing thing. This is the really astonishing thing. When it comes to Moshe Rabbeinu runs away from Parai, and he eventually finds refuge in the house of somebody who's going to become his father-in-law. And the Pasuk says, V'yoel Moshe l'sheves es haish, and Moshe was content to live with the man. And of course, he stays there for 40 years, and he works on himself to become an Ovi, v'chol. We all know that story. However, the Yalkut Shimoni says that when Moshe Rabbeinu asks for Yisro for his daughter's hand in marriage, he said, sure thing, on one condition. And what the condition was, that you would give away your firstborn son to Avodah Zarah. So Moshe says, oh, okay, that's no problem. So what he said, swear it, he swore it. Vayol makes an ola, it's a lotion of an oath, a shavua. He made an oath to give away his firstborn son to Avodah Zarah. Vayol Moshe l'sheves es haish. So Rabbi Dessler, we mentioned this, you remember, about 8 months ago. Rabbi Dessler says that, and this is quite a chiddush from the Moral of Prague. The Moral of Prague says that sometimes the Gemara will tell you a story about somebody, and the story never actually happened, but it is there to reveal a particular emes about the person. So, for example, it could tell you that there was a fellow called Yankel Schmiel, from Borough Park, who was a very frum, sincere, Hasidic young man. But he always wondered, because he had an inquisitive mind, what does bacon taste like? Or pork? I mean, he's just intrigued, because why did the guy make such a big deal out of this? And he would never dream of eating this stuff, but whenever he walked past a Chinese restaurant, he was like, slow down a bit and go, just to get a bit of the Yiddish word is like a feel of what it's all about. So in telling his story, as it were, Chazal might say, Yankel Shmiel ate pork. Oh, he never did, but it's telling you a truth about him.
Wishes he did.
Sorry?
He wishes he did.
Not necessarily wishes. It was just there's a nakuda there that needs a bit of revelation, if it needs a bit of revelation. With regards to Moshe Rabbeinu, why was Moshe Rabbeinu so happy to live with this fellow called Yisrael? So says Rabbi Dessler, because he saw the greatness within him, and indeed the greatness within Yisrael is astonishing. As Rabbi Dessler says elsewhere, that if you're named in the Torah, you were a great person. That's what Orach Chaim said here. These were great negative people who were born as Rivka, but they were great. Para was a great person. You don't mention as Arabic or Shmata, right? These are great people. Bilam was a great man. Great why is Great Britain called Great Britain? You ever think about that? That's a nice name to call yourself. Why do we call ourselves Super Duper America? Yeah, cool Canada. I mean, what's this? You're sticking all these adjectives, right? Great Britain is because the word great means big, large. There's a small Britain as well, Little Britain. There's the bit of France which used to belong to the English kings called Brittany. That's Little Britain. This is Big Britain. That's these are big people. They might be big Rishonim, but they're big. They're significant people. And Chazal say nobody makes a king who gives us a hard time, anything, all right, somebody wants to give us a hard time, he makes them big and significant and makes them kings and emperors because it's designed for our coven. Some schmata comes along and gives us a hard time. So it says the Moral of Prague that when Moshe Rabbeinu said to his father in this medrash, "Give me your daughter's hand in marriage," and Yisro said, "Sure thing. If you give away your firstborn son to Avodah Zorah," it never happened. But it's telling you the truth. What was the truth? What Yoel really means he was happy. Moshe was content to live with Yisro. Why? Because he sees a great man, he sees the potential. Not only is he going to have a name in the Torah, many times, never counted them up, there's a whole Sedra in the Torah named after him. So that's uber big. And he's desperately looking for the truth. It's because I'll see he's looked at every Avodah Zorah in the world and tried them out, and they're no good, and he's looking ultimately for the emes. So this is Gavaldic. So I know what the emes is, I'll stay and I'll teach him. Isn't that good? Absolutely. However, the Moral is trying to tell you, he says, the Gemara is trying to, the Medrash is trying to tell you that in wanting to stay with him and influence him, you have to be aware that he's going to be able to influence you as well. It's a two-way street. It's almost as though you gambled with the effect that living in this non-Jewish environment will have on your sons or your children, and that will affect them. And here's the plia. So, and this is where I do wish I had the sefer here. But in Yeshua, I can't remember where. But in Yeshua, it's almost the exact same pasuk. Ours is Vayoel Moshe L'Sheves Es Hoish. 5 words. There, the pasuk says Vayoel Halevi L'Sheves Es Hoish. Almost the exact same pasuk. Who is the Levi and who is the Ish? The Ish was Micha, who set up on the Avodah Zorah. And who is the Levi? Moshe's grandsons. Micha advertised in the place, whatever the newspaper was in those days, Google, and for some cowrings, some priest to worship, to come and work his bima, or whatever it was called, Bama, and never thought of that. Oh, Bama. Anyway, so basically, oh, now I'm in big trouble. That's it. I'm going to be banned from YouTube. Anyway, I didn't mean that. I just slipped at the tongue. I misspoke. Anyway, so basically, it was as though he was willing to gamble with this, but the next pasuk says that your children, your grandchildren, are actually affected. So if we think only children are affected by a negative environment, the greatest Jew, Lokam Yisrael Kamosha Oid, was affected by a negative environment. Rivka wasn't. Rashi says Rivka wasn't. She had a father who was a stinker, had a brother who was a stinker, she lived in a place of stinker, and the dar and the shamas came with her of stinkers. And she overcame that and was, as we just saw from Abi's father's Sefer, that she was the equivalent of Yitzchak. So next week we'll look a little bit more at how she did it.